안녕하세요. 모두 코리안의 소피쌤입니다. Hello my purple angels and welcome back to my channel.
I'ma be the best damn lover you got. I wanna mess up your covers. I don't wanna meet your mother.
Today is the final part number 3 of Tips to Memorizing Korean Vocab. If you haven't done so already, check out parts 1 and 2 in the links above. But otherwise, let's get started. So today, as the final part of this series, we will be talking about exactly the steps that you can go through to creating your memorizing systems and a few tips within that on how to use it in the most effective way. Flashcards. Personally, I love flashcards. They are simple, easy to use, easy to create, and yet really, really effective if you're using them right. All right, so I suggest that you have roughly around 25 flashcards, 20 to 25 flashcards at any given point. Nothing more than 30, I would say. And you want to have Korean on one side and obviously English on the other side. The Korean, however, should be in Hangul. If you know how to read and write, stay away from romanizing. Make sure you're writing it in Korean. Now, the main pro of using flashcards is that you can mix them up. You know, you can shuffle them in a different order. You can change which one comes first, whether it's English or Korean. And so it's making sure that things don't become just memorizing the order, and it's actually stimulating your brain. So when you're doing your flashcards, you want to make sure that you come across a word and you don't just translate and then move straight away onto the next word. What you want to do instead is pause, make sure you're really thinking about your pronunciation, i.e. you need to be saying it out loud, plus you want to also be putting it into a sentence. For example, let's say my word today is work. On the other side, it will say 일하다. I'm pausing, I'm focusing on my pronunciation. 일하다. I'm also going to put it into a sentence, i.e. I need to conjugate it. I'm going to say 일했어요. I worked yesterday. 어제 일했어요. And then I'm moving on to my next word. Just memorizing a word is often not enough. So if you go work equals 일하다, but yet you don't know how to conjugate that word, then you don't know how to use it in a sentence. That's why it's so important that you pause and you are thinking really comprehensively about this. Okay, so that's going to be the case especially for verbs and adjectives. Not so much nouns. Nouns are pretty easy to use in sentences. But for verbs and adjectives, really make sure that you're practicing your conjugations and sentence structure when that word comes along in your flashcards. Now, what I see really commonly is people who have a really big deck of flashcards. You know, there are 30, 40, 50 words in there. Now, we do not want this to happen. Make sure that you're being really ruthless with yourself and with these words. So if these words are going stale in there, so the same words are staying there for a really long time, something's wrong. Okay, we need to do something about this, whether you are then going to add them to a different memorizing system as well, so that you're crossing them over across different efforts, and making sure that you're taking words out. If you know it, even if it's not 100%, that's fine. Take it out. Whiteboard. So get a small whiteboard, stick it up somewhere like in your room or in the kitchen, in the bathroom, and then you're writing down your English words on one side of the whiteboard. And then every time you walk past it, you are, with your pen, writing the translation in Korean, in Hangul, right next to it. So this is a very hands-on activity. Now, what you want to be careful of with a whiteboard memorizing system is to make it not become muscle memory. So you're not just memorizing the order of the words there and then kind of just writing them in the same way every time. So for this not to happen, you just need to change the order of the words around each time you do them. If you have the time, you can rub out all of your words and then rewrite them in a different order. Or when you go to do the translations, start from the bottom, start from the middle, change the order in which you translate them. And of course, make sure that we are changing these words on the whiteboard, again, at least once every 2 weeks, if not, definitely every week. Post-it notes. All right, so Post-it notes are another pretty good system. I quite like them. Essentially what you're doing is you're writing your word on a Post-it note, sticking them around the house. So you want to be writing the English word on the side that you can see, and on the back side, the side that you cannot see, you're writing the Korean translation. Now, a really quick tip on this one, when you're writing the Korean word on the other side, you want to be writing it really lightly using a pencil. Right? Otherwise, you'll be able to see through the paper and you'll be able to see the answer. And then every time you walk past it, which should be many times throughout the day, you look at it and you quickly translate it. But of course, don't remember to stop, say it out loud, focus on pronunciation, put it into a sentence. Now, what you need to be careful of with Post-it notes is it's very easy for them to become a part of the furniture, right? So you start to forget about them and you almost can't even see them anymore, right? Because they've, like I said, become part of the furniture. So again, you need to be really strict with yourself, making sure that you are actually doing this little mini activity every time you walk past it, and making sure that you're replacing these words. So once they're done, take them off, replace it with a new one. Another quick tip here is that you can change the positions of your Post-it notes. So for a few days, that word might be next to this light switch here. But then a few days later, you're moving it somewhere else. And again, this just helps it to not become part of the furniture. Apps. So I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with these translating apps, as anyone who knows me would know about. But when we're talking about apps for memorizing, like flashcard apps or apps like Duolingo that give you random words, there are, again, pros and cons with these. So my personal opinion on apps like, let's say, Duolingo that give you random words to memorize, is that you do just need to use your discretion with them. I personally think that if you are a beginner, so you're only just starting to learn Korean, I don't recommend apps like this for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is that these apps, they decide what is a common word, right? They decide that these words are the beginner words and tell you to memorize them. And these words are often going to be words like man, woman, building, sky, right? And I don't know about you, but I don't know how often I use those particular words. For me, I want to know words like, no way, oh my God, really? These types of words are the words that I'm going to use multiple times a day. But with apps like Duolingo, you're not deciding on what those words are. Secondly, if you are a beginner in Korean and you don't yet understand the concept of conjugations, then you won't know how to use the words that those apps give you in an actual conversation or sentence. So those apps will most likely give you what we call the dictionary form of a verb or adjective, or otherwise known as the verb stem. And if you don't yet know how to conjugate properly, then those words, you're not going to be able to use it in a sentence at all. Okay, so that's why I suggest if you're still a beginner, it's best to go with apps where you can put in your own words rather than the app itself giving you the words to remember. What I don't recommend, a book or a list of words. So when I say this, I don't mean that you shouldn't have a list of words. You should definitely have a list of words. Anyone who has ever taken a lesson with me will know that I have a bit of an unhealthy obsession with vocab lists. So please have a vocab list. What I'm saying is that this is not a memorizing system though. Because the problem with memorizing through a list of words is that you start to remember the order that they come in. So rather than actually memorizing the words themselves, you start memorizing that this word comes after this one and then this word comes after this one. And it kind of just starts to become a bit automatic rather than actually using your brain and stimulating your brain with random words that come along. The other problem with using just a list to memorize is that you can't mix and match. You can't change and chop these words, right? They are just there in that order. You cannot take them out. You can't put in new words. It's just a bit too stationary. So your list of Korean words should not be used to memorize. They are purely there for the sake of knowing the word when you need it, exactly like you would use a dictionary. Do not memorize for the sake of memorizing. So what I mean by this one is that if a word is just not having it, right? It's just not sticking and you cannot get it in your brain no matter what you do. In that case, you know what? Just F it. It's okay. Just take it out. Okay, so we're not letting words stay too long in there, even if you can't memorize it. A word should never be in your memorizing system for more than, I would say, about 2, maximum 3 weeks. If it still doesn't stick, it doesn't stick. It's fine. Take it out. Refresh, find a new word to replace it with. And if that word was a really common one, it was a really important word, then it'll come up again, right? When it comes up again, you can do it then. So leave it out for a few months. And then when you hear the word again next time, you can maybe add it back then. Okay guys, that is the end of this video, and it's also the end of this little mini series on tips to memorizing Korean vocab. Please make sure that you are implementing all of this into your Korean studies. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other ideas that I haven't touched on. And we will be back with another mini-series next week. So please stay tuned, comment, like, share, subscribe, all of those other things, all of the above. And I will see you next week. 감사합니다. 안녕히 가세요.